March 12th. The Greedy Brother. Luke chapter 12, verses 13 to 21. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully, and he thought to himself, 'What shall I do, for I have nowhere to store my crops?' And he said, 'I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself, and is not rich towards God." Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Verse 13. Yet another family squabble about money. There's a lot about family life in the Bible. Genesis, the very first book, is more or less 50 chapters of stories about family life gone sour. There is also a lot about family life in the Gospels. We get glimpses of Jesus' own family. It was large. The wording of Matthew 13:55 to 56 suggests he had 4 brothers and at least 3 sisters. And also of Peter's family. Jesus healed his mother-in-law. And Jesus told stories about families, like the father who had 2 sons, one of whom was a prodigal. Why so much about family? Because, following the creation of man as his image, male and female, family was one of God's next best gifts to mankind. There we belong to each other both biologically and relationally. So, of course, it was and still is in the crosshairs of the devil's sights. He knows, as the old adage says, that the worst is always the corruption of the best. So, family life has always been under attack right from the beginning. In both obvious and subtle ways, Satan seeks to destroy it. Most people in the West no longer believe in the devil, and so never think this way. But even Christians who do believe in him can easily forget about him and fail to detect his mucky paws on their lives. It is hard for us to appreciate that he has been both a liar and a murderer from the beginning. John chapter 8, verse 44. Against this background, it should not surprise us that the voice in the crowd represents a family on the verge of self-destruction, with brother set against brother. Nor should it surprise us that there seems to be a tone in this man's voice that says, "Jesus, why don't you do something about this?" There's a hint of a common inconsistency here. People who want to have nothing to do with Christ and resent his interference in their lives, so long as things are going well, then turn around and complain he's not doing anything to intervene when things go badly. It is always a danger sign when we start telling the Lord what he should be doing. This man is not asking Jesus to help him cope with his situation or respond well to it. No, he treats Jesus as though he were his servant. He does not realize that he himself needs to be delivered from the spiritual bondage. Spiritual bondage? How do we know that? Because of the parable Jesus then tells the crowd. There he puts his finger on the man's problem. Mr. Rich has a bountiful harvest. He planned to expand his business to increase his profit margin, and perhaps also to diversify his trade or invest his profits. He was going to store not only grain but also goods. Chapter 12, verse 18. The problem Jesus sees is not expansion or diversification. It goes much deeper than that. It is highlighted by the fact that Mr. Rich's soliloquy uses first-person singular pronouns 11 times in 3 lines. I 6 times, my 5 times. And his plan was hedonistic. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry, verse 19. He doesn't finish his sentence with the words we've come to expect, "For tomorrow you die." But that is what happened. The superglue with which he had secured this world to himself was dissolved. Everything had been his, and now none of it was. This isn't just a story about the uncertainty of life, although that is a fact. No, Jesus puts his finger on the rich man's real problem. He'd made himself his God and treated that God richly. But towards the true God, he'd been a pauper, verse 21. He was a worshipper of the covetousness which is idolatry, Colossians 3 verse 5. The superglue on his possessions was so strong that he foolishly imagined they were his permanently. But that glue contains a fatal poison which killed him, and he ended up with nothing. Jesus can be very sobering, can't he? But that is because he wants to save us. Today's reflection. How strong is the glue between you and your possessions? And how can you tell? What have you seen of Jesus so far in Luke's Gospel that helps to dissolve its power? This devotional series is being produced with the kind permission of the Good Book Company. A link to the book To Seek and to Save by Sinclair Ferguson can be found in the description below.